What if I told you that your brain is listening to everything you do? Not just when you're studying, not just when you're reading, every single moment. And here's the scary part. It never stops learning. The question is, what is it learning from you? Imagine this. Tomorrow morning, you wake up. Before you even get out of bed, your hand reaches for your phone. Not because you decided to, because it happened automatically. One notification becomes 3 become 10. Then one video becomes 20 minutes. Sound familiar? Now here's something most people never think about. That wasn't just a habit, it was brain training. Every time you repeat a behavior, your brain asks itself one simple question: should I get better at this? And if the answer is you keep doing it, your brain starts rewiring itself. Literally, not figuratively, physically. It builds stronger connections for the things you repeat the most. So if you spend every day jumping from one app to another, checking messages every few minutes, never sitting with a single thought for very long, your brain becomes incredibly efficient at one thing: getting distracted. Now wait, this isn't one of those "phones are destroying your brain" videos, because phones aren't the enemy. In fact, they're some of the most powerful tools ever created. The real enemy is something much more invisible, something that's quietly changing how your brain works. And chances are, you've never noticed it. A while ago, I noticed something strange about myself. I was consuming information every single day. Books, podcasts, videos, articles. I felt productive. I felt like I was becoming smarter. But then, something happened that completely shattered that illusion. One afternoon, I sat down, opened a blank document, and tried to write. Just think. No phone, no music, no distractions. Just me and my brain. 5 minutes later, I was already reaching for my phone. Not because someone texted me, not because it rang. There wasn't even a notification. I reached for it because my brain wanted stimulation. That moment genuinely scared me because I realized something. I wasn't addicted to my phone. I was addicted to never being bored. That sent me down a rabbit hole. Neuroscience, brain imaging studies, psychology experiments, research from some of the world's leading neuroscientists. And what I found completely changed the way I think about intelligence, because we've been asking the wrong question all along. Most people ask, how can I become smarter? But the real question is, what is my brain practicing every single day? Because your brain doesn't care about your goals. It doesn't care about your motivation. It doesn't even care what you want. It only cares about repetition. Repeat something long enough, and your brain assumes this must be important. Then, it starts making that behavior easier, which means every distraction, every shortcut, every hour of shallow scrolling is quietly shaping your future mind. But here's the part almost nobody knows. The exact same system that can make your brain slower can also make it unbelievably sharp. In fact, scientists have discovered that your brain can keep changing throughout your entire life. Not just when you're a child, not just when you're in school. Right now, as you're listening to this, your brain is changing. The only question is it changing in the direction you want? Because once you understand the one ability that makes all of this possible, you'll realize something almost unbelievable. You were never stuck with the brain you have. You've been building it every single day without even realizing it. So, if your brain is constantly changing, then one question becomes impossible to ignore. Who is actually in control? You or your habits? Because whether you realize it or not, your brain is taking notes. Every single second. Imagine you hired a personal trainer, but instead of telling them what you wanted, they simply watched everything you did. If you spent every day sitting on the couch, they'd assume, oh, you want to become really good at sitting. So that's exactly what they'd train you for. Sounds ridiculous, right? Your brain works almost the same way. It doesn't listen to what you say you want. It watches what you repeatedly do. Scientists call this neuroplasticity. It sounds complicated, but the idea is surprisingly simple. Your brain is never finished. It's never locked. It's constantly rewiring itself based on experience. Every new challenge, every new skill, every repeated thought, every habit leaves a tiny fingerprint on your brain. Not metaphorically, physically. Here's something that blew my mind. If you learn to juggle, your brain changes. Learn a new language, your brain changes. Practice an instrument, your brain changes. Exercise regularly, your brain changes. Even reading this sentence has already changed your brain, just a little. Think about that. Your brain is being remodeled every minute you're alive. Picture a forest. The very first time you walk through it, there's no trail. You push branches aside. You stumble over rocks. It's slow. It's frustrating. But if you walk that exact same path every day, something incredible happens. The grass disappears. The dirt becomes visible. Soon, there's a trail. Then, a road. Eventually, a highway. Your brain builds connections the exact same way. The more you repeat something, the stronger that pathway becomes, and the stronger it becomes, the less effort your brain needs to use it. Now think about your own life. How many times do you unlock your phone every day? 50? 100? Maybe more? How many times do you switch between apps without even thinking? How often do you interrupt yourself before finishing a single task? It feels harmless, but to your brain, it's practice. Practice at switching attention. Practice at seeking novelty. Practice at avoiding deep thought. Now here's the part that changes everything. Most people believe intelligence comes from knowing more. But neuroscience suggests something different. Intelligence isn't just about what you know. It's about what your brain has become efficient at doing. If you've trained it to stay focused, focus feels natural. If you've trained it to solve problems, you begin seeing solutions everywhere. If you've trained it to remember, your memory improves. Not overnight, but little by little, day after day, exactly the same way it became distracted. Which also explains something almost everyone gets wrong. People think struggling means they're failing. I can't remember this. I'm just not good at math. I've never been creative. But what if that struggle isn't proof you're bad at something? What if it's proof your brain is building a brand new pathway? Because every expert, every musician, every chess champion, every scientist started in exactly the same place. Confused, frustrated, slow. The difference is, they kept walking the path until it became a highway. But if your brain is designed to become better at whatever you repeat, then why do so many people feel like they're getting mentally slower? Why does concentrating feel harder than it did 10 years ago? Why do simple tasks suddenly feel exhausting? The answer has almost nothing to do with intelligence, and almost everything to do with one chemical that quietly controls what your brain craves every single day. Once you understand it, you'll never look at your phone or your attention the same way again. Let me ask you something. Have you ever picked up your phone to reply to just one message and somehow 20 minutes disappeared? You watched a few videos, read a few comments, opened another app, and then you suddenly remembered, wait, why did I pick up my phone in the first place? If that has happened to you, you're not alone. In fact, it's happening to billions of people every single day. Most people think they have a focus problem. They don't. They have an attention training problem. And those are two completely different things. Because here's what nobody tells you. Your brain was never designed for the modern world. Thousands of years ago, your ancestors survived because they noticed what changed. A rustle in the bushes, a strange sound, fresh footprints, a new face. Missing those things could literally mean death. So evolution gave us a gift. Whenever your brain discovers something new, it rewards you. It says, pay attention, this might matter. That reward comes from a chemical called dopamine. Now, dopamine gets talked about a lot, usually the wrong way. People call it the pleasure chemical, but that's only half the story. Dopamine isn't what makes you happy, it's what makes you want more. More information, more surprises, more novelty, more of whatever caught your attention. Now think about social media for a second. Every swipe is different. Every refresh shows something new. Every scroll could reveal the funniest video, the biggest news, or something you've never seen before. Your brain loves that uncertainty because uncertainty creates anticipation, and anticipation creates dopamine. That's why you don't scroll because you're enjoying every video. You scroll because your brain thinks maybe the next one will be even better. Sound familiar? It should, because casinos use the exact same principle. Slot machines don't pay out every time. They pay out randomly, and that's what keeps people pulling the lever again and again and again. Social media works surprisingly similarly. Most posts are ordinary, but every once in a while, you find something amazing. Your brain remembers that feeling, so it keeps searching. Now here's where things become dangerous. this. After enough repetition, your brain gets used to constant stimulation, constant novelty, constant rewards, and slowly, without realizing it, your baseline changes. Reading a book feels slow. Studying feels exhausting. Thinking deeply feels almost painful. Not because those activities changed, because your brain did. Imagine listening to music at maximum volume for hours. When you finally turn it off, silence feels strange, almost uncomfortable. Not because silence is bad, because your brain adapted to the noise. The exact same thing happens with attention. This explains something that confused me for years. I could binge watch documentaries for 3 hours, no problem. But sitting down to write for 20 minutes, it felt impossible. I thought I had become lazy. I thought I lacked discipline, but neither was true. My brain had simply learned to expect a reward every few seconds. And once I understood that, everything changed. Because I stopped asking, how do I force myself to focus? Instead, I started asking, how do I retrain my brain? Those two questions lead to completely different answers. But retraining your brain doesn't begin with productivity hacks. It doesn't begin with supplements, or brain games, or expensive courses. It begins with something so simple, most people spend their entire lives avoiding it. Boredom. Yes, boredom. And as strange as it sounds, those moments when absolutely nothing is happening might be the exact moments your brain becomes the sharpest. Let's do a quick experiment. The next time you're waiting, at a red light, in a checkout line, or for your coffee, don't touch your phone. Just wait. Sounds easy, doesn't it? Then why do most people fail within 30 seconds? That uncomfortable feeling, that urge to grab your phone, to check a notification, to open YouTube, to refresh Instagram, isn't boredom, it's withdrawal. Your brain is asking, where's my next reward? And when it doesn't get one, it becomes restless. Now here's the surprising part. Most people think that's a bad thing. It's not. It's actually the beginning of something incredible. Because once your brain stops chasing constant stimulation, it starts doing something it hasn't had time to do all day. It starts thinking. Have you ever had an amazing idea while taking a shower? Or during a walk? Maybe while driving? Or just lying in bed, staring at the ceiling? It's strange, isn't it? You're not trying to solve anything, yet somehow the answer appears, almost out of nowhere. Except it didn't come out of nowhere. Your brain was working the entire time. You just finally got out of its way. Scientists have a name for this. It's called the default mode network. Think of it as your brain's backstage crew. When you're busy answering emails, watching videos, or constantly reacting to the world, the crew stays quiet. But the moment things become still, they get to work. They organize memories, connect ideas, replay conversations, solve unfinished problems. And sometimes, they hand you an idea that feels like magic. Think about a snow globe. The moment you shake it, everything becomes cloudy. You can't see through it. But leave it alone for just a little while, and the snow slowly settles. Suddenly, everything becomes clear. Your thoughts work the same way. Constant stimulation keeps shaking the globe. Your brain never gets a chance to settle. This is why some of history's greatest thinkers protected their quiet time. Albert Einstein loved long walks. Charles Darwin walked the same trail almost every day. Nikola Tesla would spend hours thinking before building anything. These weren't breaks from work. They were part of the work. Now compare that to the average day. The second there's silence, we fill it. Waiting for the elevator? Phone. 5 minutes before a meeting? Phone. Sitting on the couch? Phone. Even watching TV while scrolling on another screen. Our brains are surrounded by noise every single minute. And then we wonder why creativity feels harder, why focus disappears, why our minds feel foggy. It's like trying to see your reflection in water while someone keeps throwing rocks into it. So here's a challenge. Not for a week, not for a month, just 10 minutes. Tomorrow, take a walk. No music, no podcast, no phone, just you and your thoughts. At first, your brain will fight back. It'll tell you, this is boring, this is pointless. You should check something, anything. Ignore it. Keep walking, because something fascinating is about to happen. After a few minutes, your mind begins to slow down. Random thoughts appear. old memories resurface. Ideas begin connecting in ways they couldn't before. Questions you've been avoiding suddenly have answers. Not because you forced them, because you finally gave your brain the space to do what it was designed to do. But if giving your brain 10 minutes of silence can make such a difference, imagine what happens when you deliberately train it every single day. Not with complicated routines, not with expensive gadgets, just a handful of simple habits that neuroscientists have been studying for years. And the first one takes less than 5 minutes. So, if your brain can become distracted through repetition, can it become sharper the exact same way? Yes, and the science behind it is surprisingly simple. You don't need a higher IQ, you don't need expensive supplements, you don't even need to spend hours every day. What you need is to repeatedly send your brain the right signals. Here are 5 habits that do exactly that. Habit number 1, do hard things first. Imagine you have 2 choices. The first, watch 10 short videos. The second, solve one difficult problem. Your brain hates the second option, at first, because difficult thinking burns more energy. Your brain is designed to save energy whenever it can. That's why it naturally pulls you toward the easier option. But here's the twist. Every time you choose the harder task, you're telling your brain, build more of this. That struggle isn't a sign you're failing. It's the signal that your brain is adapting. So tomorrow morning, before checking your phone, before opening social media, spend just 20 minutes doing the hardest task of your day. Protect those 20 minutes. They'll change more than you think. Habit number 2, read, don't just scroll. Scrolling feeds you finished thoughts. Reading forces you to create your own. When you read, your brain has to imagine, connect ideas, predict what comes next, interpret meaning. It's active, not passive. That's why reading is one of the best workouts for your brain. Even 15 pages a day adds up to thousands every year. Habit number 3, stop outsourcing your memory. Think about this. How many phone numbers do you know today? How many directions do you remember without GPS? How often do you calculate something without reaching for your calculator? Technology is amazing, but every convenience comes with a trade-off. The less your brain remembers, the less it practices remembering. So here's a simple challenge. The next time you meet someone, repeat their name. Use it in conversation. Try remembering it without checking your contacts. Small exercises like these keep your memory alive. Habit number 4, move your body. This one surprises a lot of people. If someone asked you, what makes your brain sharper? Exercise probably wouldn't be your first answer, but maybe it should be. Regular movement increases blood flow, delivering more oxygen and nutrients to your brain. It also stimulates the release of chemicals that help brain cells grow and communicate more efficiently. In other words, exercise isn't just training your muscles, it's upgrading the hardware your brain runs on. Even a 20-minute walk can improve how clearly you think. Habit number 5, sleep like your brain depends on it, because it does. While you're asleep, your brain isn't switching off. It's cleaning itself, strengthening memories, removing waste, organizing everything you learned that day. Imagine hiring a team to organize your entire office overnight. You walk in the next morning, and everything is exactly where it should be. That's what sleep does for your brain. Cut your sleep short, and you're asking your brain to work inside yesterday's mess. Notice something? None of these habits are revolutionary. You've heard most of them before. The difference is understanding why they matter. Every one of these habits is casting a vote for the brain you're becoming. Not next year, today. Every repetition is another brick in the foundation of your future mind. But there's one habit that quietly destroys all 5 of these. One habit that convinces you you're being productive while making your brain weaker day after day. And almost everyone does it without thinking. Let's talk about that next. Here's a question. When was the last time you spent an entire hour working on just one thing? No checking your phone, no switching tabs, no replying to messages, just one task. If you can't remember, you're not alone. Because today, being busy has become a status symbol. But being busy isn't the same as being productive, and it's definitely not the same as becoming smarter. Here's something that shocked neuroscientists. Your brain doesn't actually multitask. Never has, never will. It only task switches, and every switch comes with a cost. Imagine reading a book. Someone interrupts you, you answer a text, then you go back to reading. Your eyes are on the page, but your mind isn't. It takes time for your brain to find its place again. Now imagine doing that 50 or even 100 times a day. That's what constant notifications are doing to your mind. Let's play a game. Count backwards from 100 by sevens. 100, 93, 86, 79. Now, while you're doing that, try writing your full address from memory. Pretty difficult, isn't it? Not because either task is impossible, because your brain is trying to switch between two demanding activities, and every switch burns mental energy. Think of your attention like a flashlight. When it's focused, the light is bright, powerful, clear. But if you keep waving it around, nothing stays illuminated for very long. That's exactly what multitasking does. It scatters your mental energy until everything feels harder than it actually is. Years ago, researchers observed office workers throughout the day. Do you know how long they stayed focused before switching to something else? An hour? 30 minutes? 10? On average, less than a minute. And once they were interrupted, it often took several minutes to fully return to the original task. Now imagine repeating that cycle dozens of times every single day. No wonder our brains feel exhausted, not because we're thinking too much, because we're restarting too often. Have you ever noticed that your best ideas rarely arrive while you're rushing? They show up in the shower, on a walk, while driving, just before you fall asleep. That's because your brain needs time to go deep. Great ideas don't live on the surface. They're buried, and every interruption pulls you back up before you reach them. So here's a challenge. For the next 7 days, try this. Set a timer for 30 minutes. Choose one task. Turn your phone upside down. Close every unnecessary tab. Silence every notification. Then, make one promise. For the next 30 minutes, nothing else exists. No matter how tempting it feels, stay with it. The first few minutes will probably feel uncomfortable. Your brain will search for an escape. It'll whisper, just check your phone. It'll only take a second. Don't listen. Because something incredible happens around the 15-minute mark. Your mind begins to settle. The noise fades. Your thoughts become clearer. And suddenly, you're no longer forcing yourself to focus. You're simply focused. But even if you master your attention, there's still one piece missing. Because a sharp brain isn't just about focus. It's also about what you feed it. Not just with food, but with ideas, conversations, challenges, and experiences. Because every single day, you're either building a stronger brain or a weaker one. And the difference comes down to choices that seem almost too small to matter. Let me ask you one last question. If I could show you two versions of yourself 10 years from now, which one would you choose? The first walks into a room and forgets why they're there, struggles to focus, has trouble remembering names, feels mentally tired before the day has even started. The second learns new skills with confidence, thinks clearly under pressure, remembers what matters, solves problems faster, stays curious, stays sharp. The surprising part? Neither version is decided by luck. It's decided by what you do today. Most people think their biggest investment is money. Some think it's time. Others think it's education. But there's something even more valuable: your brain. Because no matter what you want in life, a better career, a successful business, better relationships, better health, more confidence, every single one of those goals depends on one thing: the quality of your thinking. Here's something fascinating. Your brain is like a garden. Every day, something is growing. You don't get the option to stop the process. The only choice you have is what you're growing. You can plant curiosity or distraction, discipline or comfort, deep thinking or endless scrolling. Whatever you water is what grows. Think about this. Imagine someone handed you the world's most advanced supercomputer. It could solve impossible problems, create incredible ideas, learn almost anything. Would you spend the entire day using it to watch random videos? Probably not. Yet, that's exactly what many of us do with something even more powerful, the human brain. Here's the good news. You don't need to change your life overnight. You don't need to become a productivity machine. You don't need to meditate for 2 hours or read 50 books a year. Small changes, repeated consistently, are enough because your brain doesn't transform in one giant moment. It transforms through thousands of tiny moments. Every time you choose to read instead of scroll, to think instead of react, to solve instead of avoid, you're casting another vote for the person you're becoming. Remember something we talked about at the very beginning? Your brain is always learning. It never takes a day off. Even now, as this video comes to an end, it's adapting. The only question is, what lesson is it taking away today? Maybe it's this. Your brain isn't broken. It isn't too old. It isn't fixed. It's waiting for direction. And every habit, every challenge, every decision is giving it one. Imagine where you could be 1 year from now if you trained your brain the same way athletes train their bodies. Imagine reading faster, remembering more, thinking more clearly, learning new skills without doubting yourself, making better decisions, seeing opportunities other people completely miss. That version of you already exists. Not somewhere else, not in another life, inside the brain you're building today. So here's my challenge. For the next 7 days, protect your attention. Read something that challenges you. Learn one new skill. Take a walk without your phone. Do one difficult thing before doing something easy. And tonight, before you go to sleep, ask yourself one question. What did I teach my brain today? Because tomorrow, it will remember your answer. And if you enjoyed this video, don't just leave with inspiration, leave with action. Because information doesn't change your brain, application does. I'll see you in the next one. Before we end, I want to tell you a story. It's one of the most fascinating discoveries in modern neuroscience, and it proves that your brain is far more adaptable than most people realize. For decades, London taxi drivers faced one of the hardest exams in the world. It wasn't about driving. It wasn't about traffic laws. It was about memory. To earn their license, they had to memorize more than 25,000 streets, along with thousands of landmarks, hotels, restaurants, and the fastest routes connecting them all. No GPS, no navigation apps, just their brain. Most people thought they simply had incredible memories. Maybe they were born that way. But neuroscientists weren't convinced, so they decided to investigate. Using MRI scanners, researchers compared the brains of experienced London taxi drivers with ordinary people. They expected to find almost no difference. Instead, they discovered something astonishing. The part of the brain responsible for memory and spatial navigation, called the hippocampus, was actually larger. Physically larger. Think about that. Years of navigating London hadn't just improved their memory, it had literally reshaped their brain. Now here's the question. Did these people become taxi drivers because they already had extraordinary brains? Or did driving taxis create extraordinary brains? To answer that, scientists followed trainee drivers. Many of them failed the exam. Some gave up. Others kept practicing for years. The ones who eventually passed showed measurable changes inside their brains. The growth happened after the training, not before. That changes everything because it tells us something profound. Your brain isn't waiting to discover who you are. It's waiting to become who you repeatedly choose to be. Think about that for a second. Every book you read, every difficult problem you refuse to give up on, every walk without your phone, every distraction you resist, every new skill you practice is another instruction you're giving your brain. You're saying, build more of this, and your brain listens every single time. One day, you'll wake up and focusing won't feel like a battle. Learning won't feel impossible. Remembering names will happen naturally, not because you found some secret hack, but because for months or maybe years, you quietly trained your brain to become that person. Most people spend their lives waiting to feel motivated before they change, but neuroscience tells a different story. Action comes first, then the brain changes, then the person changes. So if there's one idea I hope stays with you after this video, it's this. You don't have to be born with an extraordinary brain. You build one habit, one challenge, one decision at a time. Your future brain is already under construction. The only question is, what are you building? If this video changed the way you think, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Because the more people understand how their brains really work, the better decisions they'll make for the rest of their lives. And if you're serious about unlocking your mind's full potential, subscribe, because this is just the beginning.